Mental health. A few people probably came to mind when I said those words, but was one of those people you? It can feel selfish to help yourself first, especially when it comes to your mental well-being, but it's something we all need and are striving for. We often compare our lives to everyone else's highlight reels and minimize our own experiences. As Theodore Roosevelt once said, comparison is the thief of joy. Like you, I have many roles. As a single mom of 5 with a busy career, not only am I bringing home the bacon, but I'm cooking it and serving it. And most days it feels like I'm doing it all at the same time. The 2 roles I love most are mother and leader, which allows me the opportunity to impact many lives. But what I have learned through the years is that I can only truly show up for others when I have made sure to show up for myself. Some of the things that have helped me most in finding joy and balance in the midst of chaos have been implementing daily practices and using natural solutions that support getting my mind and emotions to a place of wholeness. Quiet time to recenter and focus while using products like Adaptive and Serenity are absolute must-haves for me. Ultimately, nobody is immune from the stresses of life. Mental wellness affects everyone, young and old. This challenge affects us as individuals, but requires a collective response. So what do? We learn. And when we know better, we do better. This Mind and Mood session is all about empowering you with tools and knowledge and natural solutions to help each of us get to that state of thriving. We are going to learn from experts who have dedicated their lives to this field of mental wellness. Up first, Jessica Travis, a nurse practitioner in the fields of pain medicine and neurology, who has focused her career in holistic education. Jessica will teach us what happens in our brains and in our body when negative emotions take control and give us the tools we can use to disrupt these negative patterns.
Our emotional well-being must be a prioritized aspect of our overall health. We are becoming increasingly aware that when we address mental and emotional wellness, we see an increase in our physical health as well. I want to tell you about what happens in the body when we come up against things that influence mental well-being. In order to do that, I've come up with something I call the emotional feedback loop. It's a cycle that illustrates how the body reacts emotionally to sensory input. So let's break it down, starting with sensory input. Sensory input is basically when we perceive anything through our 5 senses: smell, taste, touch, sight, and sound. When you experience sensory input, your brain sets out to comprehend it, to give it meaning, and to form thoughts about it. Now, if this sensory input is perceived as unpleasant or worse, stressful or frightening, the thoughts created by that perception set off a cascade of neurotransmitters, which immediately activate stress hormones in our body. Now, this would be normal, even a healthy response for a real acute threat. But if these thoughts or perceived stressful conditions go on for long periods of time, something called the HPA axis becomes involved. HPA stands for hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal. These 3 organs start talking to each other, and in some cases, revving the engine of our sympathetic nervous system. This creates a chemical cocktail consistent with stress. And once we're biochemically locked in, we tend to dwell on the same stressful thoughts, almost unconsciously, and the whole loop continues. Now, after time, this can really take a toll on us. Cortisol, one of the hormones released as part of the HPA axis, can really create some difficulties if too much of it is released for too long. I'm going to list some difficulties that can come from this. And you may not experience all of these, but pay attention to which of these difficulties impacts your life the most. Fatigue, irritability, head tension, intestinal and digestive upset, weight gain, changes in blood sugar and blood pressure, low libido or changes in menstrual cycle, difficulty recovering from exercise, poor sleep, poor concentration. Now, all of these come from an excess of cortisol production. And none of these is something you want to deal with from day to day. So finding ways to take control of that emotional feedback loop is critical. Now, I'm going to say something that you'll want to remember. What begins in the brain does not stay in the brain. We are not compartmentalized beings. Our neurochemistry does not stay neatly contained in our brains. Nothing in our body happens in a vacuum. Our minds and our bodies are a whole, and distress in one will lead to distress in the other. Moods and emotions that are suppressed in the mind will always be expressed in the body. There is overwhelming scientific evidence supporting the idea that your emotion and mood directly affect your physical well-being. There is possibly no better or more obvious way to see this link than with the connection between emotion and physical discomfort. How many times have we felt a negative emotion and within minutes, hours, or days experienced a corresponding reaction in our body, specifically discomfort? My experience as a nurse practitioner sealed my belief in this link when I noticed an incredibly sharp increase in people asking for acute care while experiencing uncontrolled discomfort during the holidays. Well, this is when people are more likely to be stressed about money, feeling lonely, or experiencing loss. All right, we've learned a lot over the past few days about a concept called epigenetics. For a long time, we believed that the hereditary transmission of genetic information was set. But epigenetic research is now showing us otherwise. For example, if your mother was a constant worrier, it's possible that your genes are primed for worrying as well. But on the flip side, by taking control of your own feedback loop and breaking the pattern of worry, you could potentially change how that gene is expressed in your future children. The idea that the choices you make today can positively impact your children's experiences is simply beautiful. Sometimes it's easy to believe that we're helpless when it comes to our emotions, that they just happen to us and we have no way of changing the outcome. But understanding the feedback loop we just discussed and having a grasp on what's really happening in your mind and body enables you to see that there are, in fact, points along this loop where intervention is possible. So we may have more control than we realize on our journey to wellness, which is incredibly empowering. I'm going to give you 2 simple ways to put the brakes on this cycle. The first way to put the brakes on the emotional feedback loop is with supplementation. By regularly taking nutritional supplements, you can alter your biochemistry and set the stage, so to speak, for a healthier gut and brain environment. A healthy gut and a healthy brain go hand in hand. And when you have both, it enables you to be way ahead of the curve when stressful situations arise. If you're not sure where to start with supplementation, you can start with my absolute favorite, the Lifelong Vitality Pack. The second way to interrupt the cycle is to simply smell something. Just as a smell can start the cycle, you can use aroma to interrupt it and redirect your thoughts. You can even train your brain to associate a particular scent with an uplifting thought and use that association to intervene. Let's all try this together. Okay, grab an oil you love. I know you have one right next to you. And put a drop in your palms. I like to use Adaptive or Balance. So you're going to cup your hands over your nose, close your eyes, and breathe in while thinking about things that bring you joy. Isn't that lovely? There is an amazing relationship between our sense of smell and our brain. Did you know that our sense of smell is 1,000 times more powerful than the other 4 senses? Smells can bypass that way station in the brain that usually acts as a gatekeeper deciding what to do with sensory input. Smells go straight to our limbic system. This means that smells and aromas impact us so quickly that we don't have time to think about it. This is where some of the most powerful benefits of essential oils come from, through their aromas and the way they can influence our mental well-being. We can use them to stop our own emotional feedback loop in its tracks and even make a difference in the lives of our children. This is why I'm so grateful for the natural solutions I've learned in doTerra. I would encourage you to play around with the products doTerra has to offer, from essential oils to supplementation, to better assist you on your journey to mental wellness.
Now that we understand the emotional feedback loop and how it relates to each of us, we're ready to have Nicole Stevens, our very own Director of Clinical Research, walk us through the science of how essential oils work, nature versus nurture, and why you might have more control over the expression of your DNA than you think.
Nature versus nurture. It's an age-old debate. Let me explain it like this. My kids like to blame me for their curly hair, and I say that's just your DNA. That's nature. But that's the reason I teach you the fine art of a flat iron. That's nurture. Today, I would like to talk to you about the concept of nature versus nurture. We'll discuss how our lifestyle and use of natural products, specifically the adaptive line, can help us change the course of our mental well-being. Before I get into the adaptive products, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork. So let's get back to that idea of nature versus nurture. First, let's talk about DNA. Our DNA is found in nearly every cell in our bodies and contains critical instructions that influence every aspect of our health, including mental well-being. It tells our cells exactly what to do, how long to make our bones, what color to make our hair. DNA is our nature. And just as important as our DNA are the epigenetic influences that affect us every day. Just as a reminder, epigenetics is the study of how and when DNA is expressed without changing the DNA itself. Epigenetics is our nurture. Now that you understand the importance of the relationship between DNA and epigenetics, let's talk about how our sense of smell relates to these concepts. The brain is a very complicated thing, so we won't be diving into too many specifics. I'll give you a high-level overview of how aromatics can influence our emotions, and we'll touch on a few main ideas. The olfactory system, the system that makes smelling possible, is a group of structures made up of several key components. Let's highlight just a few. The olfactory epithelium is special tissue inside the nasal cavity. The cells in this structure are specifically designed to interact with aroma molecules. This is where the molecules of what you're actually smelling are first detected. We also have the olfactory bulb. The olfactory bulb is a neural structure that sends information collected by the olfactory epithelium to the brain. And that's where the limbic system comes in. Our limbic system is made up of structures in the brain that help us regulate emotions, memory, and more. Typically, the aroma comes to the amygdala first, which acts as kind of a switchboard. This is the reason why emotion is so often tied strongly to scent, because the amygdala is where we process our emotions and our primitive reflexes. From the amygdala, signals are sent out multiple other areas of the brain, such as the prefrontal cortex and the hypothalamus. Prefrontal cortex is involved in our behavior and our executive functions, things like decision-making. And the hypothalamus is a control center for our autonomic responses and even hormones. Many other signals are being sent and other brain structures are being activated. But the end result is that we get a systemic effect throughout the body. Because of the olfactory system's direct connection to the brain, our sense of smell can actually influence how our bodies feel and react in certain situations. In other words, epigenetics can be affected by aroma. We'll talk about the power of this in just a moment. Now, keeping in mind that our complex brains are pliable and the expression of our DNA can be positively altered, what are some things we can do to positively support mental health? The foundation of this is in taking good care of our bodies. The best foundation you can build for mental health is to fuel your body with nourishing foods, keep yourself active, get good quality sleep. once you've got the physical aspects of well-being taken care of, you can focus on keeping your mind healthy. Just as your body's health impacts your mental well-being, your mental health impacts your well-being on a physical level as well. It can even have a strong effect on your DNA itself. Here's what the researchers from the Institute of Neuroendocrinology at the Rockefeller University have to say about it. The brain is a biological organ that changes under acute and chronic stress and directs many systems of the body that are involved in the short and long-term consequences of the daily experiences of living. What does that mean exactly? It means that things like stress can change our brains, which in turn affects our entire body system. Over time, these effects manifest themselves in our body, and some can even be passed along to our children. Contrary to what you might think, the ways in which your genes express themselves doesn't become set in stone once you become an adult. Even in adulthood, your gene expression in your cells continues to change as you have different experiences. For brain cells, this property is something that's referred to as neural plasticity, and the changes in your gene expression can affect your health in either positive or negative ways. So how can you take control of this cycle and encourage positive brain function? This is where the adaptive products come in. This system is an amazing tool to help you manage your stress. These products were formulated using essential oils that have been clinically shown to support a healthy response to stress. These oils were chosen because of the powerful properties and benefits of their chemical constituents. First, I want you to imagine the smell of lavender. It's calming and soothing. This is mainly because of the linalool content found in it. This chemical constituent is also present in magnolia and neroli, which are also oils in the adaptive blend. Next, imagine the smell of wild orange. It's bright and uplifting. This is largely because of the limonene content, which is also abundant in spearmint. Now imagine the smell of rosemary. It's grounding, it's balancing. This is partly because of the eucalyptol content. These are some of the many constituents found in the adaptive blend. All of these chemical constituents combine to help support your body's response to stress. One of the most powerful aspects of the adaptive system is that it provides you with multiple routes of use, and each route has its own unique benefits. When you use the oil aromatically, it allows the scent to tap into the limbic system of your brain, where your emotions are processed. Topical use of adaptive allows you to combine the power of aromatic use with the added benefits of having the oil absorb directly into your skin, enhanced by supporting touch and massage. And finally, taking the adaptive capsules internally enables your body to take advantage of the synergistic combination of botanicals and essential oils, supporting not only your cognitive function, but also your emotional balance. The versatility of these products is incredible, and you don't have to stick with just a single use. Combine different ways of using the product to find what creates the most benefit for you. Whatever kind of support you're looking for in the moment, the adaptive system can be your go-to. It is most certainly mine. Studies done by DoTerra scientists report that the adaptive system can help reduce feelings of anxiety and improve performance in stressful situations. Scientific evidence continues to show that natural products can make a difference in our health and wellness. So what does this all come down to? Well, even though our bodies come with a certain set of genetic instructions, we can often change and optimize the expression of those instructions through our lifestyle. We can do this through having a healthy diet, getting the right amount of sleep, staying active, and managing our stress. Additionally, we can use powerful natural products, such as the adaptive system, to support our mental health through aromatic pathways, to impact our physical well-being, and to provide a systemic benefit to our bodies. Making these simple changes and implementing natural solutions can truly empower us to take control of our health and wellness. We have the ability to use both nature and nurture to help us live a life that is exactly what we want. My hope is that we can all take advantage of the beautiful gifts of the earth to become the best we can be.
It's fascinating how the products in this system synergistically work together, aromatically, topically, and internally to help support our mental well-being. One woman who is a trailblazer in the aromatic use and benefits of essential oils in a clinical setting is Dr. Danielle Daniel. As a doctor of psychology and licensed clinical social worker, we're going to learn firsthand how our environment plays a role in our emotional well-being and how we can use essential oils to support ourselves when moving through trauma.
Virtually everyone experiences trauma at some point in their life. When it comes to mental health and wellness, trauma is a big part of the conversation that many people are having right now. When we don't work through those traumas, they can sometimes develop into further complications. But here's the great news. Essential oils can support us as we manage life's demands. This is something I've studied extensively. In fact, it was the focus of my doctoral research and my dissertation. I've seen essential oils do incredible things, and I can't wait to share those with you. First, however, I think we need to talk about what is trauma. Trauma can be described as a psychological effect caused by a deeply distressing or disturbing incidences from the environment. It can leave someone feeling vulnerable, mistrusting, or even disoriented in their own identity. There are 3 domains traumatic stress can affect: emotional dysregulation, loss of self-integrity, and a change in a person's ability to relate to and maintain healthy relationships with other people. If not addressed, trauma can take root and cause further challenges and difficulties for the individual. I often refer to these results as a deeply rooted emotional distress. Although not everyone who experiences trauma will develop deep and complex emotional distress, there are many ways in which the environmental onset can manifest later on. So let's talk about how trauma continues to affect our lives. A big contributing factor is environmental triggers. An environmental trigger is a situation that mimics the environment of the original traumatic event. So after the initial environmental onset, your environmental triggers can suddenly cause a reaction. When you are exposed to that trigger, it can cause your mind and body to respond as if the trauma was reoccurring right in that moment. For example, if you experienced a trauma because of a car crash, driving in a car or driving in the same area where the crash took place could trigger an emotional upset. The trigger can even be something small. Let's say that the last thing you remembered before the car crash was the sound of your turn signal. Hearing a blinker again could potentially trigger the reaction in your body. So how do essential oils play into this discussion? What I have found is that aromatherapy can help trauma survivors while they are facing difficult triggers in their environment. There are 3 reasons why essential oils can be so useful in these situations. They are easy to use, they work quickly, and they are incredibly accessible. Now let's take a deeper look at each of those reasons. First, essential oils are easy to use. By applying a roller bottle of essential oils on the pulse points or by inhaling a drop directly from a bottle, you can immediately receive the benefits of the aromatic compounds. Anyone is able to do it when they find themselves in a moment of immediate need, even children. Secondly, essential oils work quickly. When we breathe in essential oils, the volatile aromatic compounds travel through the neural olfactory pathways directly to the limbic system, meaning that we are able to feel the effects almost instantly. And third, essential oils are accessible. Simply having an oil with you in your pocket, in your car, or your bag allows you to have the support that you need. It can create an anchor of safety and help you stay in the present moment when a trigger may onset. This anchor can calm the mind and interrupt the trauma-induced feeling. I received incredibly valuable feedback from participants of my doctoral research who had indications of trauma and used aromatherapy during the study. Their words are so powerful. Listen to what they told me. A military officer said, "I found that the aromatherapy helped me from instantly reacting like I normally would do. I was able to slow down a little bit and respond better." A Navy SEAL stated, I was able to talk with a stranger about my childhood trauma. I found that it was easier to talk about all this stuff, which I don't normally like to do because it brings up my emotions from trauma, but I was able to pretty easily talk about it without feeling any anxious emotions. Finally, a survivor of sexual assault shared, it reduced my ruminations. I was able to focus and validate how I felt. I cried, but I felt safe. I believe the oil facilitated that safe space for me to process. I felt comfortable during my bouts of shame and sadness. It doesn't make it disappear, but it definitely brings your focus forward and breaks you from that cycle of negative thoughts. As you can see, emotional aromatherapy has made a huge difference in the lives of so many people. We all have varying experiences with trauma, and emotional aromatherapy truly is one of the best tools you can add in your personal journey to emotional well-being.
Grace is a twin. She's my older twin, and she'll never let anyone forget that. Because she's my oldest, I believe she puts a lot of pressure on herself to be the best. She does not like to show weakness. She does not like to show fault. Whatever she does, she has to be the best at it. Four years ago, Grace started having some stomach issues. Leading up to a swim meet, or even leading up to a paper that was due or a test that was coming up, you could tell that Grace was definitely stressed. We would notice she was pacing, she was biting at people. She was just not fun-loving Grace.
I just kind of shut down. Just feels like everything's closing in. It makes it hard to eat, sometimes makes it hard to breathe.
I had been doing some research, and what I realized was her own personal weight of perfectionism has made her anxious. These feelings of stress and anxiousness was really kind of upsetting her stomach. We started using the adaptive line that DoTerra introduced to us in 2019, and honestly, I feel like Grace is able now to grow into who she's meant to be. She has started taking the adaptive capsule, especially a day of a meet, and we've noticed that she is just more even-keeled. She's just a more pleasant Grace. She's able to take and really adapt to what is happening around her.
When I use adaptive, it just makes everything a little calmer, a little smoother. I don't have as much discomfort in my stomach anymore. It makes me feel more open, just easier to be me. A lot of my friends and family have said my personality is coming out more. They can tell I'm happier and just to know that more.
It really is like night and day. She just was for a 10, 11, 12, and 13-year-old, just not living her best. Once adaptive came into her lifestyle and into her wellness routine, we get to thoroughly enjoy Grace. She doesn't have to do things to be the best. She gets to do her best and let it ride at that.
With doTERRA, I feel like I can accomplish anything.